model. Those are available to you. Maybe we can put them up on the wiki, in fact. Would that be the best way of doing it, Claire? Okay, I'll get those to you, and then you can put the benchmarks for this up there. The last time the benchmarks were looked at in a complete way was 2007. We got an expert on the effective schools literature from Harvard University to be our consultant, and he went thoroughly through the benchmarks to be sure that we were up to date entirely in relationship to what those benchmarks say. The effect of this model is that the states of Colorado and Utah and Virginia and the cities of Boston, Wichita, Seattle, some places in Illinois, lots of places in Utah are using this model as the basis of what they're doing for RTI-based systems change. People are getting it that RTI is not something to play with just for doing a little progress monitoring and deciding what intervention to use, but it is a catalyst for this sort of systems change. So let's go through this model, and we'll talk about it. The first part of it, excuse me, is assessment that we'll talk about. So this is a very interesting point that Marzano and Waters make about school leadership that works, and that is that large-scale status-oriented summative assessment is relatively ineffective in providing information that can be used for instruction. Well, you know, our youngest daughter, Stephanie, when she was in high school, when I said something obvious, would say, "Duh, Dad." Just a little smart aleck. Just, "Duh, Dad." Well, that's sort of an obvious thing, isn't it? How could we expect that summative assessment would give us information that would be predictably useful and prescriptively useful for instruction? We agree that value-added or growth models should be used as the primary type of data used by districts and states to analyze their effectiveness. The big debate in the U.S. right now is what should happen with this No Child Left Behind thing. That is probably, unfortunately, some of the cancerous parts of it have probably invaded the nation of Canada as well, unfortunately. But there are some parts of it that are good, like holding people accountable to results. This is not a bad idea. Some of the other stuff in it is not good, like the only way that a school district is recognized is when it fails. That's not a good thing. And to make it impossible for school districts to actually achieve what the goals of the Act are. And that's happening as well. But what's happening now is there's a discussion that I think is going to have international implications, and that is adding a growth model into the assessment that is done in terms of accountability, state by state, district by district, school by school, classroom by classroom. It seems to me that if you want to build an incentive system for teachers, you certainly could do it ineffectively by setting an achievement level, and if teachers don't achieve that achievement level with the teacher's kids, then the teacher doesn't get the incentive. That's not fair. What is fair is a growth model. Where did the kids start? Where did they end up? In your stewardship, this happened. Therefore, you should be getting some sort of incentive. Does that make sense? So that idea of a growth model makes some very good sense. You ought to, if there's one thing you ought to keep up with about something that's happening in the U.S., it is this discussion. That's a discussion that's an important one. Are the provinces represented here doing anything with growth models? In terms of the way schools are being held accountable, or teachers or school divisions? Are you doing a little bit of that?
Yes.
It's a good idea, isn't it? The first glance of it by teachers is that you can't do it in a fair way. Yes, you can. You can do it in a fair way if you're careful about it. And what's cool about a growth model is that the best teachers will flock to the lowest performing schools because it's easier to show growth when you're far away from a goal than when you're closer to a goal, statistically. So what do you want to do? You want to like get yourself into this school where the kids are really far away from what we're trying to have kids be proficient at because you can really show growth. Well, that's a cool thing because then you get better teachers in the schools that need it. Does that make sense? So I know this is very behavioral, Skinnerian sort of, but I told you this morning that that's like who I am. I'm an arrogant behaviorist, and that's just what I'm trying to undo, but I can't quite fully because it works. All right. So formative assessment does improve learning. Well, duh, that's really true. Here are the 4 phases, though, that Marzano and Waters talk about what we should be doing to have non-negotiable goals for achievement using a formative assessment procedure. So you reconstitute provincial standards or state standards or school division standards as measurement topics or reporting topics. You track student progress on those topics using teacher-designed and district-designed formative assessment. You provide support for individual kids, and you redesign the report card. One of the cool things that is happening, and I want to tell you that this isn't a one-way conversation. The Regina School District, as I think I mentioned in passing this morning, the Regina School District is one of the best districts I've encountered in terms of the use of RTI as a catalyst for systems change. They really are into it. It really is really quite hot over in Saskatchewan. But I will tell you about a school district in the United States that really has done a good job redesigning a report card is the New York City Public Schools. Their report card is really a cool one because it deals with the issue of growth. And that's what you better see within a school is growth of students toward the standard that you want them to achieve. So my question about assessment then is, what can technology do to help you achieve what you're trying to achieve in terms of assessment? What are you using right now in terms of the assessment technology to help you achieve what you want to achieve? Anybody? Do you have any kind of a system in place? Yeah.
We have a student data collection system where benchmark assessments are entered in.
Okay, so a student data system where benchmark assessments are entered in. Can teachers put in formative assessment data into this system and get real-time reporting back?
Yes.
Because that's got to be the goal. If you really want to help people to be scientists, they've got to have the tools that a scientist has, which is real-time data available, right? So is that something implemented across the school division?
Entire board.
Okay, and how are teachers responding to it?
It's in its beginning stages, but it's fairly positive.
Yeah, my wife was a nursing administrator, and she found that nurses had a real problem with having to all of a sudden do anything with technology rather than writing on a chart with a pencil. And even though it would be useful, it was hard to change the paradigm. Are you past that, do you think? Or?
Yes, because they're seeing the benefits of it over time.
So teachers are seeing the benefits over time. Okay, good. Back to that point about why this would work. And so when they see that, then that really does become useful for them. How are other systems using technology for assessment? Okay. Wait a minute. How are other? No, just kidding. This is an interesting issue, isn't it? If you are a school system that really takes a very strong embedded constructivist philosophy about education, then you would be less likely, I think, to be using technology as a way of managing your formative assessment because it feels reductionistic. It feels antithetical to a constructivist view of really just kind of attending to the whole child in an ongoing way. I would say that you can get more out of a constructivist approach if you use some technologically based mechanism for taking a look at data. I mentioned to you that in our company, our merge company, that there is this thing called vPort that is just a platform for people to put their data into that really helps them to be able to look at progress monitoring data and to move forward. It's a real useful tool. So think of it this way. A full assessment system starts with the biggest large-scale assessment that you're held accountable to are all of you in provinces that have certain standards and kids are tested to those standards. Is that true? Yes. That's accurate. There is not a federal or national set of standards. Is that correct? Yeah, I think that'll be the weirdest moment in history when the United States has national standards before Canada does, which is going to be sort of a weird moment, but I think that might even happen pretty quick. But you have to have a way of looking at that, because those are the large-scale, big system issues that you have to attend to. And then inside that, you've got to have screening devices that you can use 3 times a year that help you to see where all the kids are in relationship to what you're trying to accomplish. And then you have your formative assessment or your progress monitoring system in place. I'll just say this quickly for the sake of our time, that there seems to be a growing consensus in the RTI revolution that for kids that are just getting universal interventions, that 3 times a year screening thing could be sort of a formative assessment, sort of a progress monitoring thing that works okay. For kids that are getting tier 2 or strategic interventions, then monthly progress monitoring makes sense. For kids that are getting tier 3 interventions that are intensive, it's got to be no more than every other week that you do progress monitoring to see what's going on, because those kids have such intense needs. So that's the kind of model that needs to be in place, and of course it can be facilitated by technology. There's a lot of good tools that are being produced in Canada and the United States. I'm sure that you could take a look at if you're interested in doing that. So the next part of the model is the issue of curriculum, and I want to define this carefully, because dealing with your colleagues in Saskatchewan, when I mentioned the word curriculum, they were thinking a different thing than I was about that word. What this word means is it's the stuff you use with kids in a classroom to try to help them achieve your objectives. So it's the material is the curriculum. The curriculum is not the standards that you're trying to get kids to achieve. Do you understand the difference in the terminology? I don't know what you call the materials that teachers use. You call them materials? Resources. Although the way most people in Canada say it in English is much more elegant than the way somebody from the U.S. says the word resource. Someone say resource. Resource. Yeah, it's a little bit. You say resource. Yo, listen to that elegance. That elegance is just, it really is elegant. I love it. I love it, and can't do it. So that's just the way it is. But that's what we mean by that term. So materials. It's either the basal curriculum or the textbooks you're using, or the basic curricular materials you're using, and then the interventions you're using, both print and technology. So let me set this up for David then. This was the research that was done in the United States that really sparked the RTI revolution. It was done by Joe Torgeson and his colleagues in Florida. They took a group of kids who were at low risk of reading failure and followed their achievement through their elementary grades. Not a big surprise, this is the way they learned. They took a group of kids who were at high risk of reading failure, followed their achievement. This is the way they learned. The classic achievement gap. The question the researchers asked, because they were good researchers, is, okay, fine, how do we close the gap? That's fine that we have the gap. How do we close it? Let's don't just commiserate with one another, oh, how awful it is that we have a gap. Let's figure out how to do something with it, is the question. So the first thing that they decided to try, because of what the prevailing wind was in the United States, is they said, you know, we do have some research-based core curricula that could be used. Let's try using something like that and see what happens. What happened in the U.S. in California, Texas, and Florida, those three big states, they have statewide adoptions. When those adoptions come forward, the publishers pay attention in the United States because of the market that is. That's a huge market if you think about those three giant states with those populations. And they changed their curricula based on those three adoptions in just those three states. So what began to happen is that the reading research was coming forward that was saying unequivocally, this is what you have to do if you want to teach kids to read. So the publishers began to create research-based core curricula to use in schools in the U.S. So they tried that, but notice it didn't close the gap very much. So then the researchers said, well, what in the heck else do you have to do? And what they found is that when you have well-aligned interventions along with research-based curricular strategies or a research-based curriculum, then you have a chance of closing the gap. That's what created the RTI revolution, right there. Now, I decided to show you a triangle, and I decided to show you, not to show you one from the United States, because when I was going to work in Saskatchewan, I decided to go to the provincial website, and this is what I found. And I thought that was kind of fun to see that. I've gone to the UK's website for education, and I found the same triangle, interestingly enough.
We pinched it from Saskatchewan?
Say again?
Did we pinch it from Saskatchewan?
No, I think that everyone else pinched it from Great Britain. Oh. Do you feel better now,
I did.
David?
Very
yes.
resourceful.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, good. That's at least what he thinks. Don't tell him the real answer to that question.
Saskatchewan wants to stand up for them.
Yeah, pretty cool, though. Pretty cool stuff. Now the notice it says general resources, and then general and supplemental, and then general and intensive up, as you go up the model. Here's the dilemma that we're facing in the United States. See if you're facing it where you live. There's a lot of people that are building these triangles, and they build them with this thought in mind. A lot of them have pre-built into them, this is 80% of the population, this is 15% of the population, this is 5% of the population, as if that's true in all school systems. Now, what I have found, and I've very vividly given this advice to people, get those percentages out of the triangle. Because there are naysayers in every one of your school divisions who will say to you, fine, we'll give you enough money for 5% of the kids to have an intensive intervention. What if you have 30% of the kids in your school system who need an intensive intervention? See, I don't think it's fair to suggest to a general classroom teacher, when the teacher is a high school teacher, 9th grade teacher,